All right, here we go. Pretty smooth. It actually backs out of the driveway way quicker than I do. I mean, just because I'm busy trying to look both directions and make sure no one's turning in off of the street. And it's amazing when you can see all around you at one time. You don't really have to waste time. All right, so we're off. 13.2.2. It's really incredible. A lot of the things that version 12 would have problems with, 13 is just incredibly smooth with those same situations. Like version 12 would get a little bit jittery, and it would like take a second when it had to recalibrate. If everything didn't go right, it had to think about how to fix that issue, and often that involved like the steering wheel going multiple directions, or it fucking around with the acceleration and the brakes in a way that really makes you question whether or not it knows what the fuck it's doing, which is to be expected. I should be clear. This is a positive critique. Version 13 really is spectacular with some of these things. Although, one of the questions that a lot of people might have is, does this still hug the curb when you make right turns? It does a little bit. We'll have a few of those you'll be able to see. That's probably one of the annoying things. The other thing that's maybe overlooked is that now that FSD is pretty capable of doing most of the driving, it's critical that we dial in obstacle avoidance, because if it hits potholes and fucks up your car, no one's going to use it, especially these new users who are, clicking the button on their free trial, try FSD, it's their first drive and they hit a fucking pothole, and that's it, game over. They're not going to return to it for a minute. So, I'm a little more patient with this tech because I know how it advances, obviously, but that's pretty notable. I feel like that's got to be a hot priority soon, so I would expect that we see some heavy development in obstacle avoidance. It's like those little things that stop you from actually using it at all. If you fear it's going to hit curbs, obviously that's going to ruin it. Potholes, same thing. Running red lights, all the obvious. It does a pretty good job. I don't think I've ever seen it run a red light. I mean, I've seen instances of other people experiencing that, but I haven't had it run a red light. I did have it stop in an awkward position, kind of partially in an intersection, because it didn't have the balls to go on the yellow and was already kind of out there. So that was bad. All right, we got to do some slightly heavy braking here, but not bad. So situations like that, that's a perfect example of where it really is multiple times smoother, it feels like. So those situations where it has to recalibrate, there's no it's just not jittery. It doesn't take as long to question what it's about to do next, or if at all. It just feels like it's kind of seamless. Might be hard to see this camera here, but you'll see it still gets somewhat close to curbs, closer than I would get as a driver. I remember when FSD first came out, my interventions were almost always because of these right turns that would get close. I'd like it to stay outside of the bike lane at least, or whatever this little easement area is. It should give lots of clearance, especially for pedestrians. You can have pedestrians who've got their legs in the road at corners. So it seems like over time this will probably be the case. It'll take wider turns, wider right turns, which, like I said, it's going to remove anxiety from the driver, and then it's much safer for pedestrians, especially those with like dogs on a leash or something. So yeah, welcome to winter in Tucson. It's 68 degrees out right now. I'm about to go pick up Mom so that we can go walking and get outside because it's beautiful out. It's really nice. It's probably going to hit like super low 70s for the high. And yeah, visit sometime. So I don't even know what that was in the road. It was small. It was really nothing. But just generally things like that, a human driver is going to move out of the way, right? Because we don't know if it's a bottle. It's hard to tell with small items, so typically my point is that we avoid them to play it safe. And I know Tesla's got eyes on this stuff. I guess it's just about curating that data set and then really fine-tuning it to get the model weights dialed in. So it makes sense, but those things are pretty exciting. Like those are parts of FSD that are going to bring it to new levels. And in my opinion, it's really going to solidify whether or not you're able to use it, kind of actually use it. Because once you're able to actually use it and not really have to worry about things like that, you're going to have a completely different picture of Tesla FSD, and you're going to evangelize it as such. So people are going to hear about it, the news is going to hear about it, YouTube's going to hear about it, and it's just going to make things kind of exponentially grow as far as adoption rate of FSD goes. But you know, one person hears that their friend tried it and it ran into a curb, or anything remotely related to that. That's yeah, that's disaster. I don't really know where to put the GoPro, so hopefully where I positioned it is good. I mean, I've definitely checked it, don't get me wrong, I've done test runs, but none of them seemed ideal for some reason. First time I've done this, so maybe that's expected. Alright, so version 12 used to actually hang up on this and sometimes get into that bus lane. Nice job. Okay, cool. So that was beautiful. That's an instance when there's no traffic around you. Those of you who run FSD, you've probably noticed this. When there's no traffic around, the car will feel liberated, and it will do things it would not do if cars were around. For instance, on left turn lanes like that, where there's a double turn lane, if there's no one around and it's late at night, the car will just fucking cut through both of those. And it'll pick whichever one it wants to pick in the end, but it doesn't give a shit about those lane lines at that point. At least I've seen that happen in version 12, which is funny. I realize that when we're out driving late at night and there's no traffic around, we're probably a bit liberated too. So whatever. It's you know, it's echoing human sentiment, but that needs to get dialed in, though, not because it's unsafe, but because again, it's one of those things that makes you question whether or not the thing's predictable. And the less predictable it is, the less FSD will get used. The adoption rate is about to ramp up. We all know it is. It's about to ramp up heavy, and that's because these issues I'm talking about are about to get dialed in. And it's going to create just this next level of virality. And then, of course, by then, the thing will probably go live in Texas and California and hopefully Arizona. I kind of think Arizona because Waymo's operating here, but I'm definitely not an expert on that. I probably got a bit of ignorance. So maybe that's a bad connection, but figured I'd share it. And ultimately, I don't really know what the difference between regulated full self-driving is going to be and non-regulated. I suppose it would still nag you maybe to pay attention to the road. And I'm pretty cool with that. I mean, once the car can drive itself really well, that's kind of the end goal. I feel like at that point it'll get refined, of course, forever. But at that point, Tesla can really move into, they can shift their focus over to Optimus. and really growing the AI side of things and the robotics. I do miss having a gasoline engine that I could rev when I was driving cars prior to owning Teslas. That was fun. I don't know if you guys could hear that one that just went by. Just made me remember. I had a Dodge Challenger, and it's probably one of the best things about driving it was how it sounded. Don't get me wrong. I actually love, maybe even prefer, the silence of an electric vehicle and the whine that it has. It actually sounds like the future to me. So, engines are cool, but I feel like I'm taking off in a fucking spaceship. Especially when you back out, it's got that just perfect sound. It's like you've got jet engines, you know, winding up. You know what would be fucked up is if this music that's in the background was flagged by YouTube and unusable. Let's hope that's not the case, because that's fucking retarded. Maybe if I talk enough, it doesn't matter. I don't really know the rules around that. The only stuff I've really ever posted on YouTube has been guitar, so it's my own music. I've definitely been flagged for jamming over other stuff, actually, so I take that back. I had some tunes where I was jamming over Joe Satriani, and that's fucking lame. It got flagged and removed. I think that's stupid. I mean, I'm not even selling a product, right? Like, there's nothing about that. I'm not even monetizing YouTube. I don't even really have a YouTube channel. These are just people that stumbled. I don't have a huge following or anything. This is tiny. Like, who the fuck, like Joe Satriani and the label that he signed up with, and he's cool with it, for them to shut down people like me who love his music and want to jam over his music? That's pretty fucked up. Am I right? Yeah, of course I'm right. Alright, so yeah, this is the first time I've actually done this route, and it's a common route that I've taken like dozens of times in version 12 and prior, but forget old models, right? Everything is advancing really quick. We can pretty much look at the version we have now and then the one that's about to be released. And then outside of that, Tesla's got all of the other models that are still being refined. Safety's being dialed in. I would love to see the inner workings of fine-tuning these models, these AI models. Probably really boring and fascinating at the same time. But yeah, this is fantastic. I don't really feel, I just felt a little tiny braking. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it was gauging the speed limit. It's rare that you feel any of the recalibrating going on with version 13. Like I said, if I had to kind of sum it up, that's probably its biggest pro, and the biggest win is that all of these times when you would see version 12 thinking about what to do, this one's already doing it. Something I'd love to see, I see this do it sometimes, but it would be great if it got over in the right lane right now, because everyone would rather be at the front of the light than behind a car. So kind of surprising to me that it doesn't do that, honestly. I feel like, I don't know, what's the probability that a user shifts over into that right lane? Like in the scenario that we're in right now, I would wager 50%. And if not 50%, then probably somewhere in that range. I'll see if I can find data on that. But you would think that the model's got plenty of data demonstrating that behavior, that human behavior. So yeah, I find it surprising. I mean, we all know how often that happens, because whenever we try and get into that lane, there's like at least one other car who's also got the same idea. So that's probably about the odds. Maybe it's more like 20%, or 20% that you can see actively doing it. And then what about the others? If it was a left open lane, like in our situation, I think 50 is reasonable. You can question my thinking, but that seems pretty solid. I really should have put it in Santa mode. Maybe I can do that. I think I can do that in real time, right? Ho, ho, ho. What can I say? Fucking Merry Christmas, everyone who believes in that shit. Who doesn't love Santa Claus on a sleigh as your fucking electric, self-driving, AI-powered car drives down the road?